Hello everyone and welcome to a DCS Warbirds update. This update will cover really May, June and July. The reason is I was unable to get updates completed in May and June due to being far too busy with other things. However, I've managed to scrape together some content now for the end of July. So obviously the two most important pieces of Warbirds related news from the last couple of months was the release of the P47 and the brand new World War II channel map. Now, these have been widely discussed by this point, and I've made a few videos covering the content of both of those modules. So I don't really want to spend any time looking at those two things, apart from to say, if that is news to you, then you can check the description at the bottom of this video where I've got some other material about both the P47 and the channel map. So let's move away from those major releases which have been quite well publicized and quite well covered by a number of channels now and move on to some more detailed information. The P38 Lightning, let's talk about the P38 Lightning. There is a third-party developer called Flying Iron Simulations who have over the past few years developed Warbird modules for the X-Plane series. Some time ago they announced they were going to work on the A7 aircraft for DCS, which is their first DCS module. At a similar time, I think they were also posting images of a P38 that they have begun putting together for X-Plane. Now, obviously the question was asked, do Flying Iron Simulations think they will build a P38 also for DCS using, let's say, the X-Plane model as the basis for doing so? Earlier in the year, in May, the answer to that question from Flying Iron Simulations seemed to be rather a no more than a yes. They were asked this very question on the xplane.org forums, and the answer was the following: we'd love to see the P38 in DCS and we appreciate the support, but one active project at a time in DCS is more than enough for us. Our DCS development efforts will be focused 100% on the A7 for some time. Nevertheless, we believe the P38 will make an excellent addition to X-Plane 11 just in time for the new Vulcan implementation. So this is pretty clear. Their DCS efforts are focused on the A7, not on the P38, and the P38 was really targeted for X-Plane to coincide with Vulcan implementation, which has now occurred. Then they've summarized this again. In short, it's pretty unlikely, unfortunately. So that pretty much puts a nail in the P38 coffin. X-Plane has some excellent development tools that allow us to create highly realistic simulations like this one relatively quickly. This is not the case for DCS, which requires exponentially more time and resources to produce a similar result. Now, I'm not quite sure about similar result because X-Plane doesn't have anything in the way of damage model and weapons, really, whereas DCS does. So I don't know about this similar result chit chat here, but okay, fine. The amount of effort required to produce the P38 for X-Plane is significantly less than DCS. So as of May, it looked like a DCS P38 from Flying Iron Simulations was pretty much a no-go. Now, the conversation took a slight turn in late June, early July, in a short conversation on Facebook. An initial question was asked whether or not there were plans for the P38 in DCS, and we had a very similar response from Flying Iron to what we heard in May. The response being not any time in the near future, no other DCS modules until the A7 is complete. So fine. Then someone called Preston Martin made some further comments, and the comments were to the effect that no one else had been identified as currently developing a P38 for DCS. And this was somewhat of a coincidence, given that Flying Iron just happened to create their own reusable code for a P38 that is not dependent on X-Plane. The response from Flying Iron Simulations: thank you for the kind words. Yes, an amazing coincidence indeed. One could almost speculate that we've changed our coding approach to leave more avenues open for the future. So I think this is a bit more positive now than what we heard in May. I still think the timeline for the P38 will not begin until after the A7 is complete. So I don't think there's a change in the timeline or the resourcing of the potential P38 here, but I think we can be a bit more confident that Flying Iron Simulations are looking seriously at the P38 and its potential for DCS. My speculation would be that once the A7 is released, they might then start moving some resources across to moving their P38 project that they've done for X-Plane into a DCS project as well. However, there's also Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 on the horizon. They may actually be considering moving the P38 into MSFS 2020, which, to be honest, is probably going to have a much, much larger customer base than DCS does. What I'd like them to do is do it for both. Get the rights to the P38 for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. It's not going to probably require much in the way of damage modeling and weapons. Take advantage of that customer base, and at the same time work on a version with full damage modeling, full weapons and systems for DCS, so that those of us who play DCS can also enjoy this wonderful bird. There you go. That's my 2 cents on how it should be done. Of course, my opinion has no weight whatsoever with these guys, and they should do whatever makes best sense for their development and for their business. One of the most regularly requested updates for World War II stuff in DCS is information about the damage model. All we know at this point is that sometime in the last couple of months, the damage model has been sent to external beta testers. It's not entirely clear what that means, but it does suggest that that damage model is now in a condition where people outside of Eagle Dynamics can take a look at it and report back. So fingers crossed once again that we see that. As usual, it's one of those things where we don't really know what the anticipated or expected release is, so it's more of wait and see, unfortunately. Now, despite not knowing when the new damage model is to be released, it does appear that elements of it have been sneaking their way into the open beta over the last couple of months. Online players have noticed a number of changes in the damage effects they've been experiencing, such as aircraft shaking when engines are hit. The props now appear to bend on a couple of modules when the props are damaged, and on other modules the props will actually snap off, such as the Spitfire, indicating the props being made out of different materials. There does appear to have been some change in some of the effects. We're seeing the visual effects, the fire and smoke and the bullet flashes, but a lot of this is speculative or anecdotal, and it's very hard to know exactly what has been changed in the way of the damage model and the damage effects and what has not, without a concise or comprehensive list from Eagle Dynamics. There is a suggestion there that some of the stuff is simply slipping through. However, it's not clear whether the release into the open beta of minor changes to the damage model is intentional or not. Another hotly requested update item for which, unfortunately, I have no news is the Corsair module, which is being developed by Leatherneck. They have been very quiet on this module. They were, I think, planning to release quarterly updates on their Facebook page, but I haven't seen anything for quite some time from them, and the conversations I've had with people that know a little bit about that project haven't really produced any information that I can report. So unfortunately, at this stage, there is no news on the Corsair. I think we can assume it is still being worked on. When it will be released, we don't know. Looking at the World War II assets pack then, we have now seen some renders of 3D models for Freya and Würzburg radar units. It's understood that these units will not just be a static with no functionality, and that Eagle Dynamics are trying to implement some kind of actual radar function into these assets when they get released. It's not clear to me exactly what that will look like and how the information from these assets will be reported to the players. It's also not clear whether or not similar sets of radar units will be developed for the Allies. There are chain home towers currently on the channel map, but those don't seem to have any actual function, and there's no indication that any of the mobile radar units which the Allies took into Normandy, either those that were mounted on ships or the ones that were landed on the beaches and installed soon after on the coast, will be developed by Eagle Dynamics. It would be certainly nice to see period radar units for both the Allies and the Axis get added to the assets pack. In July, Eagle Dynamics released a statement saying that they were going to be focusing their updates for the next wee while on bug fixes and improvements to the existing DCS platform rather than releasing new content. This came as quite a welcome change in approach, certainly from the player base and the customer base perspective. And a few of us from the World War II side of DCS took the opportunity to remind Eagle Dynamics of a number of bugs which are seriously hindering the World War II side of the game. Some of these bugs are very old, those being the invisible trains and the invisible barrage balloons in multiplayer, two bugs which date back to the release of the assets pack. And there are a couple of other bugs mentioned as well, such as the problem with the ship LODs and the tanks which pass through anti-tank obstacles. And there's another major bug to the AI. We've seen this bug in the past. It was fixed and it now appears to have resurfaced. But if you have a mission that starts before 5 in the morning, the AI goes into sleep mode and they stay asleep even after the sun comes up and the mission progresses past dawn. The AI, when it's sleeping, will not notice other assets, hostile in particular, and so the flat guns won't fire and a bomber formation that's intercepted simply won't react. The bomber gunners won't fire. The bug appears to manifest normally on dedicated servers, but there are anecdotal reports that people have also seen this in single player and on servers which are also rendering. It's a pretty major bug, and it basically means that no missions which start before 5 in the morning can run. As a result of reminding ED of these bugs, a number of the threads on the forum have this reported message next to them, which indicates they have been reported internally within Eagle Dynamics. However, we have no indication about whether or not resources are allocated to resolving these problems, and we have no idea when they will be fixed. Indeed, if they will be fixed. My hope is that these would be completed in August. I did have my fingers crossed for these to be tidied up with the major update in the middle of July, but it's possible that the bugs were reminded to DCS so close to that major patch that they didn't have time to get round to them. In any case, Eagle Dynamics, if you are watching this video, these are some critical set of bugs here. They currently massively hinder the World War II side, particularly in multiplayer. And it's a shame that the work on some of your lovely World War II assets has kind of gone to waste because no one can see them in the game. In July, we also found out that SUNTSAG, who has been a relatively prolific modder for DCS World War II, will now be working officially on some single-player content for DCS World War II. This content is going to start off with releasing new instant action missions, and SUNTSAG has put out a message to the community asking for assistance with voice audio, so voice acting for those missions. I conducted an interview with SUNTSAG, which will be up on the channel soon after this video goes live, so look out for that video where we'll discuss a lot more detail about what he is working on for DCS Warbirds single player. Right, so now here is a weird one. Right at the end of July, someone posted a image that was captured from the Digital Combat Simulator Instagram of all places. And someone had asked, will we ever get a flyable bomber? And the answer from, apparently, the official Digital Combat Simulator Instagram account was yes, and the bomb will be ... So, it looks like we are going to be getting a flyable bomber for DCS World War II at some point. No idea when. However, we have no idea what this bomber is going to be, and Digital Combat Simulator's official Instagram account are not saying what it will be. It's pretty certain that this is not going to be the Mosquito. The Mosquito variant that will be released is going to be the Mark 6 FB apparently, which actually takes a very, very small amount of bombs and does not have a bomb sight. So it shouldn't be the Mosquito that's being referenced here. It should be something else. Whatever the heck it is, nobody really knows. There's obviously speculation now from various individuals. Now, what I would like to see is a twin-engine tactical bomber from the 1943-44 period that would perfectly match the maps we have and the other aircraft we have. But like I said, we don't know what this is a reference to. Furthermore, it is really odd to see statements like this coming from an Instagram account and not originating with one of the kind of traditional DCS channels, such as the forums or even the Discord. A weird one, this. The floodgates are open now for speculation. That brings my update for May, June, July to a close. Thanks for watching, and as usual, I will see you up there.